Hello, hello. This is just a little introduction because I think it's nice if you know who is talking to you. So, hello, it's me. My name's Becky, and there is a Wikipedia page about me, which is it's okay, Beki Adam. But anyway, the more important thing is what comes next. So here we are, World Health Organization, Moderna. We're going to have an interim recommendation. How much publicity did this get? So, the vaccine is safe and effective, they say, with these medical conditions, although further studies are required for immunocompromised persons. They may be vaccinated after receiving information and counselling. So you're going to pass the risk on to them. This should have perhaps been in a few newspapers, more prominently than the none that I saw. Vaccination can be offered to people who've had COVID-19 in the past, but individuals may wish to defer their own vax for up to 6 months from the time of infection. Bear in mind that the WHO authors have access to adverse event data that we don't have. So is there something showing up that's prompting them to write that? They don't write things for no reason. Who should not take the vaccine? The use of this vaccine in pregnant women is currently not recommended. I read a tragic VAERS adverse event report about a woman losing a child in pregnancy. And as far as I understand, there have been more than one reported in the States. But where's that as a publicised data, really? Not under 18s, recommended dosage, yes. Well, yes, compliance with the full schedules recommended. Well, surprise, surprise. And the same product should be used for both doses. Yeah, unlike Public Health England's ridiculous idea, which they've since deleted or edited away, about giving 1 dose of Pfizer and 1 dose of Oxford, which is like bolting a Mini and a Land Rover together and telling someone to drive off down the road. It's just stupidly irresponsible. Both have different tech. So, if necessary, the interval between the doses may be extended to 42 days. Maybe, and presumably that then is the absolute maximum. It's really murky, isn't it? Is it safe? They did say up here that it was safe, but anyway, well, is it safe? Whilst this vaccine has yet to be approved by the WHO for an emergency use. Oh, but it has undergone review, blah, 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 blah. But for some reason, the WHO haven't given it emergency use. I'll have a look at this longer-term safety assessment. It involves continued follow-up of clinical trial participants, as well as specific studies and continued surveillance of secondary effects or adverse events of those being vaccinated in the rollout. So they are continuing to monitor secondary effects or adverse events. Secondary effects. Is that a really obfuscating way of relabeling an adverse event? And is the implication there that this is an ongoing experiment? Because let's face it, there is no long-term safety data. How efficacious is it? Been shown to have an efficacy of approximately 92%. Relative risk reduction, not absolute risk reduction. The absolute risk reduction was shown to be less than 1%. So that's actually pretty misleading. We know the headlines were misleading, but actually for the WHO not to bother to say that's the relative risk reduction there is, misleading, disgraceful, irresponsible, nothing new, but it's just dire. Does it work against the new variants based on the evidence so far? Kind of, maybe. Does it prevent infection and transmission? We don't know. Immunity persists for several months, but the full duration's not yet known. No, well, you haven't got the data, have you? These important questions are still being studied. Well, so they should be. Do you want to tell people in the meantime what you don't know so they can make up their own minds, which is commonly known as informed consent? So I just want to say a little bit about censorship. This was February last year. Facebook, Amazon, Google and more met with the WHO to figure out, according to CNBC in the States, how to stop coronavirus misinformation. WHO hosted a meeting at Facebook, some of the largest tech companies, to discuss how to tamp down on misinformation. Okay, let's have a look at something. Just have a look at some of this apparent myth-busting. First Draft work in partnership with the WHO in, they call it dealing with health misinformation, but have a ponder on this. A healthy immune system is more powerful than a vaccine. This narrative was present in English, Spanish, to a lesser degree French. It was used primarily to argue that leading a healthy lifestyle, including increasing your intake of vitamin D, spending time in the sunshine and limiting carbohydrates, sugar, means you won't have to take a COVID-19 vaccine. That's this narrative, okay, we're talking about. Other posts state that nature, in this case our body and immune system, is a truly perfect healing machine. Many of these posts hail from New Age, alternative medicine and spiritually based accounts. Such accounts and groups are often hubs of health misinformation. Worryingly, these communities are now intersecting with more radical conspiracy theory groups. So, more radical would imply that these are radical but just less radical. So, posts that state nature and your immune system is a truly perfect, they always pick slightly weird, it's called straw men, isn't it? When you create a sort of slight off the main topic thing to discredit. But what are they actually saying here? Leading a healthy lifestyle, I'm surprised they don't question that. It does indeed include increasing vitamin D, spending time in sunshine, limiting sugar. And actually, if you're really healthy, you don't need to take a COVID-19 vaccine. And actually, if you've had COVID already, according to the WHO, you don't, or maybe you'd like to defer. So it gets worse. More from First Draft. Alternative medicine. This will be alternative to mRNA injections then. The presence of New Age spirituality and natural medicine accounts peddling the idea that a healthy immune system achieved through one of the many practices encouraged by these sources, such as yoga, meditation, or vitamin D, can protect you from disease, far outstrips authoritative information detailing how this is misleading. I beg your pardon? A healthy immune system achieved through one of the many practices encouraged by these sources, such as yoga, meditation, or vitamin D, can protect you from disease. And that far outstrips the authoritative information detailing how this is misleading. These accounts and posts could be a real cause for mRNA seller, drug pusher concerns. Oh, no. These accounts and posts could be a real cause for concern given their protean nature. Replicate. They use arguments highlighting the importance of the individual and individual ownership of one's own immune system. They use arguments highlighting the importance. They use facts, they use logic, highlighting the importance of individual ownership of one's own immune system. Who else owns it? You might want to, guys, your mRNA software of life weirdo biotech people. But actually, the individual does in fact own their own immune system and health. And that's to attack the efficacy of vaccines. No, just the spurious data does that on its own, actually. So as well as the idea of mandatory vaccines, wow, it's so mind-boggling. Sorry, I have to go back. So these accounts and posts could be a real cause for concern. They use arguments highlighting the importance of the individual and individual ownership of one's own immune system and health to attack the efficacy of vaccines, as well as attacking the idea of mandatory vaccines, which falls under the topic of liberty and freedom. Not sure why you need the inverted commas there, guys, because indeed mandatory vaccines does fall under the topic of liberty and freedom. Can you see what they're up to? It's outrageous. And it needs to be stopped. My preference would be to disband the WHO at this point.